Hello, this is Miss DeVito, and today I'm going to show you how to make bruschetta. Bruschetta are slices of bread that are grilled or toasted, rubbed with garlic, drizzled with olive oil. It is commonly served topped with tomatoes that are mixed with herbs and served as an appetizer. So here, let me show you how to make this recipe. You will need half of a red onion, 4 vine-ripe tomatoes, about 8 to 10 basil leaves, 4 cloves of garlic, a quarter teaspoon of pepper, a quarter teaspoon of garlic powder, a quarter teaspoon of onion powder, and 1 teaspoon of salt. You'll also need 1 loaf of bread, about 18 to 24 inches long. This is a French baguette that I'm using. To season the tomatoes, you're going to need 2 teaspoons of balsamic vinegar, as well as 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. For the toasting of the garlic bread, you're going to need half a cup of regular olive oil. I'm going to use a bench scraper, I'm going to use a medium bowl, as well as a serrated knife and a chef's knife. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mince my garlic. In order to do that, I'm going to cut the root end off of the garlic, discard it off to the side, and then I'm going to press down gently on each clove of garlic so that I am able to flatten them so that when I am mincing, it's much easier to cut them as they will not roll around the cutting board. And then you can see after I've sliced through them, I gather them back up into the middle of the board in a pile and then just continue the process of rocking my knife back and forth over the garlic until it is finely chopped in even pieces. A lot of times I actually like to do this process one time by mincing a lot of garlic and keeping it in my refrigerator packed with olive oil so that I have it ready to use when I need it. All right, so I'm going to take all this garlic and I'm going to put it in a saute pan and I'm going to add my half a cup of olive oil. I'm going to bring it to the stove. I'm going to turn the stove on and then I'm going to just start to lightly cook the garlic. I don't want to brown the garlic. I don't want to toast the garlic. I just want to heat the oil up so it makes the garlic sizzle. And what it's doing is it's cooking the garlic and kind of helping reduce the pungent taste of it, but it's also flavoring the olive oil. So this would be how you would make a garlic flavored oil. When it starts to really bubble, almost like deep fry, your garlic is ready to go. So you're going to take it off of the flame and you're just going to let it cool, okay? I just leave it in the pan so it has a few more seconds to cook. And now I'm going to go prepare my basil. We're going to cut our basil into a chiffonade. Chiffonade are thin ribbon-like strips. And in order to do that, I'm going to take all of my basil. I'm going to put them in a nice stack. And then I'm going to cut really, really very thin strips. Okay, you want to make sure that your knife is sharp because if it is not sharp, it'll actually crush the leaf instead of cutting right through it. And you can see I use my guiding hand, which is my left hand, to hold the basil leaves, and I move the hand back after every single slice so that I'm able to keep all of the basil together. Just wanted to just get a couple of chops in at the end because some of them were a little bit bigger. And that is my chiffonade of basil. Nice, thin, ribbon-like cuts. I'm going to put those into my medium bowl. I'm going to place the basil in my medium bowl, and now I'm ready to prepare my onion. I'm going to make sure my board is clean, and I'm going to peel the skin of my onion. So what I like to do is cut a thin slice on the root end as well as the stem end, and that is going to help the peel come right off of the onion without wasting too much of the actual onion. I'm going to slice it in half through the root end because I only need half of this onion for this recipe. The other half I'm going to place in the fridge well wrapped to use for future use. So in order to slice my onion, I use my guiding hand to hold the onion in place. I place it flat on the top and then I make my horizontal slices, about 2 or 3 depending on the size of the onion. Then I cut it vertically from right to left to make cuts that are about 1/4 of an inch thick for my small dice. And then I cut from front to back to complete the dice cut. I'm going to place these cuts in my medium bowl with my basil. Next, I'm going to prepare my tomatoes. So what I like to do is I actually like to cut the root end and expose some of the inside seeds. I like to use a small spoon and kind of go around the outside of the seeds that are in the middle of the tomato and scoop them out without damaging any of the flesh. The seeds offer a bitter taste if I keep them in, so that's why I really want to take them out. After I seed all of my tomatoes, it's time to dice them. I don't like to waste any part of this tomato except for that small stem end in the tomatoes. So I like to just cut around it in a nice small dice and use that inside of my recipe. And I just discard the little stem end. Now we're going to dice the outer layers of the tomato. If there are still some seeds left inside your tomatoes, you're going to trim and discard them because you don't want them to be part of your recipe. And then you're going to start to dice your tomatoes. You're going to start with them skin side down, and you're going to start with a stick cut. So we're going to cut nice thin strips, and then we can dice those strips from front to back into about 1/4 inch pieces. You're going to keep on doing this with all of your tomatoes until you have cut all of them. And you're going to add them to your bowl with your onions and your basil as you go along to make sure that you don't work on a very overcrowded board. So one more time, cut the tomato in half. Any of the ribs and extra seeds you're going to take out of the center. We're going to slice our tomato into a stick, making sure the tomato is skin side down. Then after you cut them in a stick, you're going to gather them together. You're going to cut them into a dice, and then you're going to put them in the bowl with your other ingredients. Next, we're going to cut our bread for our bruschetta. So we want to cut our bread in about 1/2 inch slices on a bias. On a bias means on an angle. And the reason why you don't want to cut your bread straight across, rather you want to cut it on an angle, is because you get a wider surface area for the slice of the bread. If you were to cut it straight through, your bread would be much smaller in diameter than it is on a bias cut. Next, we're going to lay our slices of bread out on a sheet pan. Mine is lined with parchment paper, but you don't have to. I just do that for easier cleanup. After all the slices of bread are laid out, I'm going to take the oil from the garlic oil that I made earlier, and I'm going to pour the oil onto each of the slices of bread. You can put some of the garlic on top as well, but you want to use the majority of the garlic in your tomato topping. So we're just going to give a nice thin coating of this garlic oil to our bread. We're going to season the top of the bread with a little bit of salt, and then we're going to put it into our preheated 350-degree oven for about 10 to 12 minutes until it's golden brown. Make sure you check on your bread often so it doesn't burn. Besides a nice golden brown appearance, they're also going to be very crispy to the touch. You can make these 2 to 3 days in advance of serving them. Now we're going to season our tomatoes. The tomatoes I like to prepare at least 1 day in advance, but I also make them at the same time that I make the bruschetta toast. I'm going to take my garlic that has been remaining from my garlic oil that I made earlier. I'm going to add my seasonings, my salt, pepper, onion powder, and garlic powder. To this, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. I like to add extra virgin olive oil because it is more flavorful for a salad. I would never use it for cooking, only for dressing a salad, whether it be a green salad or this tomato salad. And last, I'm going to add my 2 teaspoons of balsamic vinegar. I like to add balsamic vinegar because it has a very concentrated and intense flavor for the salad that really helps round out the dish. I'm going to stir well taste for seasoning. And then I'm going to put this in an airtight container overnight in my refrigerator because it tastes much better when the flavors get to marinate overnight. I'm going to serve my tomato salad in a bowl on a board with my bruschetta toast. I like to serve them separately from each other so everybody could top their bruschetta when they're ready, and so that they are not served a soggy piece of toasted bread. Hope you enjoyed this recipe. Let us know if you try it. Give this video a like, subscribe to our channel, and hit that bell for notifications if you'd like to see more recipes like this.